Welcome to everybody. I see, okay, Tom, Peter. Mike, is that you? Oh, okay. Didn't recognize you. Sarah, nice to see you. Charmaine. And Morgan, you're new to the group. You want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Morgan Hilliard. I'm the new executive director for the Simsbury Chamber of Commerce. I came on board for the chamber just a couple days before everything shut down. So very unfortunate timing on taking a new position over, but really happy to pivot the focus of the chamber to supporting members and making sure that all of our businesses are surviving this and we get through it together.
Right. Yeah, your timing couldn't have been any better.
Yeah.
Sure, it's been a very calm and stress-free environment that you walked into. So Maria, our first item on the agenda is, real quick, what's the update on Melissa? She's out of maternity leave?
Yes, she is officially out on maternity leave, so we're very happy for her.
Everybody healthy?
Yes, yeah.
What'd she have?
A boy.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
It's
Right.
exciting. Yeah.
And Brooke had a little baby boy back in March.
Yes. And she was not sure if she'd be able to make the call today, but she's I was corresponding with her this weekend. She said he's doing very well.
Great. Always very good to hear. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is the long-term recovery committee discussion. Maria, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I just want to say thanks. It's so good to see everybody. Thanks for your patience with us during the pandemic. Pulling off our virtual meetings has required a pretty high level of resources for us. And so we made a pretty tough decision early on when our meetings became closed to the public to really scale down the number of meetings we are having. So essentially right now we have folks such as yourself, if there's something time sensitive or urgent that people need to be aware of or potentially take action on, that we have committees meeting for that purpose. And so I shared with Bob that at a staff level, as we start to move forward into this recovery phase, that we really felt that was a role that the EDC could potentially be incredibly helpful with. Some hands-on work, some boots on the ground, again, really helping to support our business community. So we thought this would just be a really good check-in to share with you some information that we've been learning over the last few weeks and trends that we've been seeing. And again, just really want to thank Sarah and Morgan and Sherm for the updates they're going to be doing later to, again, sort of elaborate on recovery and trends that they're seeing. But this long-term recovery committee, we don't have a lot of information on it at this time. There was a webinar a few weeks back, and I know some folks were able to participate on that. But we are being asked by the governor's office, every community is being asked to establish a long-term recovery committee. And there's really sort of two focus areas from what we've been able to ascertain. One is on helping with business recovery. And then the second is to help our residents who have unmet needs and really filling those gaps in service and to help folks get back on their feet. So sort of a social services aspect. And that it's a model that they used, the federal government used, I believe, after Katrina. And the state had a little bit of experience here in Connecticut following Storm Sandy with some shoreline communities. So this is a little different. And they ask communities to identify a long-term recovery coordinator. So we had reached out to Bob and Tom to see if they would be willing to help serve in that role, which they were terrific and agreed to do. And then sort of our next step is to really sort of brainstorm, again, what on sort of the business recovery piece or the social service piece, what problem are we trying to solve? What unmet needs do we have? So we'll be pulling together a small group of folks who are really just brainstorming on potential stakeholders for this group. Again, the state to provide some suggested, groups that we would look to, such as, educational institutions, nonprofit agencies, the faith-based community, the business community, banking institutions. So again, really starting to brainstorm stakeholders that could potentially be involved to help out with this committee. So that's sort of the next step, is for us to kind of work through, again, what in theory might this committee do, what role would they serve, and who some of those participant stakeholders might be. So I think there'll be more to come on this in the coming weeks. We also don't have a tremendous amount of clarity, and I might also ask Mike to comment on this, but whether or not this group will be subject to FOIA or will not be subject to FOIA. We've heard conflicting opinions, I think, at a staff level, and Bob, our town attorney, he's been thinking that most likely this group would be subject to FOIA requirements. And there's also not a lot of clarity in terms of, would the Board of Selectmen be a formal appointing agency? But we think that if the towns are being asked to set these committees up, that's probably a very appropriate and reasonable step to take. So there's just a lot of logistical issues that there's a lot of unanswered questions right now, and we just don't have good guidance from the state yet. But we want to try to get out ahead of this a little bit and start thinking about it and planning for it. And again, I think once the committee is up and going, again, particularly with the business recovery piece, I just think that's something that the EDC could be very helpful with. And Mike, I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to add from what you've learned.
No, you summarized that webinar that we attended. You're right. I mean, hit all the high points.
Great.
I would comment the approach that they're taking is very much like that you would do with any basic consulting engagement, and that they're doing a needs assessment and based upon the stakeholders that we identify, and conducting interviews with them and figuring out, what are they hearing from their constituents? What are their basic needs? What are their major needs they need to get through this whole crisis and get back on their feet to where they were, prior to. So, like, Maria said, obviously the obvious ones are the business and what have you. But, by speaking to religious leaders, we'll find out from a mental health standpoint, how are your people coming along? And might there be some needs there? We know food insecurity is a major issue across the state, and clearly it's going to be there in Simsbury as well. I don't know what shelter impacts there might be, but there may be a whole list of things that we come up with, and the approach would be to identify all these various needs, then for us to sit down and prioritize those needs, and then figure out how best to address each one of those needs, either through maybe it's something the town could do, or maybe it's something we collectively do as a region, that we roll up to the state and have the state help support, or maybe it's even at the federal government level. We really don't know. And then as we kind of go through the list, kind of knock it off. Okay, we address this, we address that, what have you, and just work the list and work it down through. So pretty straightforward approach. I thought it made a lot of sense. And like Maria said, identifying the key stakeholders, of which I see, I think Sarah and Morgan will both be major stakeholders for us in their interactions with the business and understanding their needs. Will be major players for us going forward. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to do. So, okay. Next item on our agenda was to talk about temporary outdoor dining for the restaurants. That who's
just 2A, Bob, which was I wasn't sure if anybody who had attended the CCM webinar on business recovery, if anybody just wanted to share thoughts or comment on that, and if not, we could go right to 2B, which was the temporary outdoor dining.
I do have one quick question. Does the town have a disaster recovery plan per se, documented?
For technology purposes?
Or any purpose?
Yeah, we definitely have one, I believe, for technology purposes. And then we have sort of a larger emergency management operations plan.
Okay, so like if a major flood, would overwhelm the Farmington River and create a natural disaster here in downtown Simsbury, do we have a backup or a disaster recovery plan to get the town back up and running? Has that ever been documented?
That's a good question. I'll have to check with our emergency management folks on that. Like I said, I know for the technology piece, we definitely have we have something. And sorry, you're bringing up a flood. We just had a training exercise, gosh, I want to say within the last year, and that was our scenario, was a major flood.
So also to clarify, I sit on public safety. I've sat on public safety for the last, I want to say 9 or 10 years, 8 or 9 years. In addition, there's lots of different disaster relief. There's lots of different documents and lots of different things that go through public safety. The fire department is head of the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, should the town open it. Currently, we're in a virtual EOC. We haven't actually had to open the room, the EOC, like we did for the October storm 8 years ago. And we do run, tabletop drills and things like that. So there's lots of different scenarios that the town is well planned for with all the different agencies and all of the different stakeholders.
My thought is that those documents could be very helpful for us in this long-term recovery planning document where we put together, because it could be a great source of identifying, what are the resources that could be available to us to help out in the recovery. It'd be good to see those. Okay, we talk about temporary outdoor dining for restaurants. That's something Sarah's going to talk about, or that?
Mike, you want to start and I'll join in?
Sure. Why don't we do that? So the Zoning Commission 2 weeks ago granted staff the authority to issue approvals administratively for temporary outdoor dining. And then the Board of Selectmen also waived any fees associated with this. And these were attempts that have restaurants to add extra seats outside once we opened up, which to the credit of the Board of Selectmen and also the Zoning Commission, they were proactive in these actions, because then Governor Lamont issued an executive order that kind of mirrored a lot of how we're approaching temporary outdoor dining. So what does it mean? So specifically, I'll give some examples, because I spent the better portion of my day today going to various restaurants. If you drive by Abigail's, they're using their existing patio, but they'll be adding tables in the lawn area by the entrance to the restaurant. That is what's considered the extra tables that are out, the temporary outdoor dining. The patio, obviously, it's been permitted. It's not. It's part of their facility. As part of the executive order from the governor, a lot of standards, such as requirement parking, the use of parking areas to put temporary outdoor dining, has been allowed. And it's the ability for some of these restaurants to add, like I said, add tables where they may not have had tables. And Sarah, do you want to add anything else on the nuts and bolts of the executive order?
So just very quickly, starting today, May 20th.
March.
I know. The days are going by. So starting today, outdoor dining is permitted throughout the state of Connecticut. I want to thank the working team that Maria's put together, but special thanks to Kevin Kowalski, special thanks to Henry Miga, Mike, myself, and the Farmington Valley Health District's been invaluable. We put together the working group to try to streamline the process as quickly as possible. I want to give kudos to Simsbury, because we were out ahead of the governor's executive orders. We were putting together all of this stuff before the governor's opening team put together their recommendations. Main Street has been working with the restaurants. I've been fielding phone calls, texts, you name it, from them on a regular basis. And then what we would do is we would address their questions. They would submit their permit. The permit would be looked over by the health district, by the fire district, building, and then signed off by Mike. Mike had actually caught up today while he was doing his site visits. This is meant to try to help the restaurants, but I will tell you, at least in Simsbury, it's going to have moderate results. The the social distancing and the outdoors is just, it doesn't recoup many of the losses that the restaurants are seeing. So a lot of them are still operating, instead of doing outdoor dining, they're still operating on either curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery. Okay, because they just couldn't get the footprint. You'll see, as Mike mentioned, Abigail's was able to add a couple more tables on the lawn. We're working with Lisa Luna Pizza, and they were able to add some tables in the parking lot. There's, here and there, but most of the restaurants just can't add the amount of tables to make up for the volume.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments? Okay, the next item on the agenda was the oral report from the Main Street Partnership. So, Sarah?
Yes. First of all, I just want to apologize. I have to cut out shortly for another meeting, but I wanted to go through and it's great to see the EDC back. As Mike mentioned, we've been working with the restaurants since before the shutdown. We were working to coordinate curbside pickup as one of the first towns to do that, working on the family meals, which now you're seeing everybody start to institute. We've been doing that since the third week in March with them. We listed the Simsbury restaurants, all restaurants. There were 37 that we had listed on behalf of the town. We kept the updated list as to whether they're open, closed, what they're serving, how they're modified their services. Today I posted, or last night I posted the newest version of the restaurants, which is version 15. We're working with the town, as we mentioned, to coordinate outdoor dining. We're also working with both Kevin Whitcoast and John Hampton. We've been advocating for things like the executive order to streamline liquor control for the restaurants, and we're successful in getting that. We're advocating on a lot of different things on behalf of the restaurant community. Main Street has also been working with the health district. We're working on salons, the barbershops, and the tanning that was just postponed. I had to tell all salons this week that it was postponed till sometime in June. Now they're saying June 1st. But we were getting them up and prepped. We were getting them the PPE that they needed. We were getting them the resources, and many of them were ready to open and had already booked, this week. So trying to mitigate some real disappointment there. We've been helping navigate funding since the beginning. We were one of the first to help to let people know about the bridge loan from DECD and also the subsequent quick closure. The state, for those of you that don't know, the state put what was supposed to be a $25 million bridge loan together. They had 5,000 applications before they closed it. They doubled the money to $50 million, but they still only made it through a very small portion of the businesses that had applied. We helped work with the feds to put out both the EIDL, the Emergency Disaster Loan, and also the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, other SBA funding. We are still fielding calls and questions on, a lot of our businesses now have gotten the PPP, which is fantastic, but they had questions on how to set it up, how to track it. There's a portion of loan forgiveness, which is the most attractive part to the small businesses about the PPP. And so we've been navigating that, and also the EIDL, how the advance works, how they work together. They count, even though you can apply for both of them, they count against each other a little bit. We've looked and let our businesses know about the other grants and funding opportunities that are available. And I know that I CC I copy all of the Economic Development Commission on my email. So you guys have been getting those since the beginning. We work on everything. We're so hands-on. We're doing even things like just regular supply stuff. We're helping to hand out the masks from CBIA. Today, I was outside Weldon. We handed out 56 thermometers from the 50,000 that the governor is promised to the small business community. And we anticipate those numbers will get even larger. We are looking, and thanks so much to both Tom Roy and Maria Capriola, we're able to offer bulk sanitizer purchase through Main Street, which was a huge deal because, sanitizer is a commodity. You need it to open. Our business community needs it to open. And we're not seeing gallon prices. You're seeing huge inflated gallon prices, $70, $80, $90. And it takes weeks, and they're getting them from overseas. So thanks so much to the partnership of the town. We already have orders in for the sanitizer for our businesses. I don't want to take up too much time. We're doing advocacy, as I mentioned, on the local and state level. I'm in constant contact. We've been fielding Department of Labor questions, unemployment questions, you name it. I'm working 7 days a week. We're taking phone calls, text messages, emails, from the local business community. And I've had 100 plus businesses reach out. So I've had 1 day off since this started, if that gives you kind of any idea.
Sarah, when you say we, who's we? You and who else?
It's Simsbury Main Street, me. And my board of directors, who's also business and property owner. So stakeholders in the community, but I'm the paid staff person. So it's me. I'm working 7 days a week because this is when the businesses need the most help.
Can you do it all?
I am.
Okay, great.
I'm trying.
That's great.
So, and then the other thing, just a reminder that, and I say this all the time on my public safety, but we have, Main Street has compiled the most comprehensive list of both Simsbury restaurants, but also Simsbury businesses that are open, closed, or modified. You can find that list. It's being constantly updated. It's on shopsimsbury.com. The town has listed it. It's on social media, but there's over 100 businesses listed, not including just, if you take out the restaurants, who's open, who's closed, and who's modified open.
I had a question for Mike. Mike, are you the only person that goes around to check that restaurants or companies, construction are following the guidelines? Or is someone else doing that? The police do that? Or it seems like a lot of work for you to do all that.
So we joked about it. At the tail end, it becomes code enforcement and on every disaster. So yeah, from the standpoint of the temporary outdoor dining, yes, that some of that is I am the primary contact handling it. But that's with, as Sarah noted before, that's with the fire district, the health district, Henry Miga, the building official. So I mean, there's several disciplines that are working together. As for general compliance, like others, let's say a construction site, Henry Miga has been dealing with this, and I will say that a lot of our construction sites, the larger ones, like such as Big Y, they actually had a plan in place to deal with social distancing and kind of balancing their workers. It's the smaller ones that we occasionally have issues with, but for the most part, we have not had anyone who really is trying to color outside the lines on this. We haven't had really the kind of things that other communities that you're hearing complaints about. And just the side note is that the governor last night issued another executive order having to deal with nuisance complaints related to that, which we're meeting with our attorney on that and how we'll be handling those, because those are related to the safety complaints, because it's basically life safety, public health. There'll be police in the Farmington Valley Health District will have one portion of the enforcement, and then the catch-all goes to the nuisance. And I don't know, Maria, do you want to add anything about that catch-all?
No, I think you did a great summary. We're just sort of trying to work through, how that will work logistically, and when does it, make sense for Mike and his team, which includes the building department, Henry Miga, when does it make sense for his team to take the lead on an enforcement issue should one arise, versus when does it make sense for the police department? And again, meeting with our town attorney this Friday morning just to try and get a better handle on it. The executive order identified certain establishments that the health district is responsible for. There were some listed like salons, tattoo parlors, some things of that nature, but pretty much all other enforcement was going to fall to the municipalities, with the chief executive officer being responsible for designating those individuals and departments that would be responsible for enforcement. So again, this is something we kind of need to work through. As Mike said, we just learned about it yesterday. So I'm just trying to respond to that very quickly, and hopefully we'll have a good plan moving forward by the end of the week.
Or till the next executive order.
It's all right. Right.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, sometimes we find our situation just changes so rapidly, and we joke, but not to take it lightly, but sometimes our situation we feel changes like not only day by day, but hour by hour. It just really, really depends, and things evolve so rapidly during this.
So, Mike, my only question is, where'd you get your haircut? Because the rest of us guys have been struggling here for like the last 8 weeks without one. Yours looks pretty good.
That would be the Glidden Salon. I could tell you my secrets later.
It looks good. I'm personally growing a ponytail, but other than that, we're doing the best we can.
Let's see the back, Mike.
Morgan, you want to give an update on the chamber? You've been equally as busy.
Yes, extremely busy. I can absolutely understand where Sarah is coming with the 7 days a week, all hours of the night. It's constant, and especially coming into this new position, learning exactly what committees and events we have going on in addition to all the changes that are necessary with the times. It's definitely been an interesting learning curve, to say the least. So the Chamber traditionally is an event-based organization. That's really where our members find the most value in terms of networking and building their businesses and things like that. So without being able to do events, we've had to adjust. We've had to look at other ways of continuing to give these benefits to our membership and make sure that they're surviving this. So we've really been focusing on virtual networking. We have several networking opportunities every month, and we have received decent attendance. It really depends on what opportunity is available. So some people are available in the morning, so we like to do the second and the fourth Thursday morning at 8 a.m. We do Good Morning Simsbury, and that's an agenda-based virtual networking event where we let everyone do a 1-minute introduction so they can talk about who they are, introduce their business. That's the time for them to communicate any sort of specific business needs that they might have or struggles that they might have, to really connect with the community of other local professionals and see if they're able to get any of those questions answered or find help in any other way that they're looking for. We've done an after hours, which was really well received. The after hours is more of a casual, happy hour. We say grab a drink of your choice, and it's just, again, it's an opportunity for people to reconnect, to break out of being stuck in their homes and continue to grow their network and their community, and try to pass on business referrals and things of that nature. So people seem very excited about the virtual networking, to be honest. I think in the beginning of all of this, people were unfamiliar with the technology. So they've had to learn how to use Zoom, rely more on social media, and keep up with their business in that way, when before they might not have needed to rely on that technology. So I think there's definitely been a struggle that we've seen with that, and we've been trying to help all of the businesses that are not as familiar with using that tech and how to incorporate it so that they can maintain the productivity that they want. So the website has been a huge benefit for our members. We normally get, a decent amount of traffic, as we're also the visitor center for Simsbury, but under the conditions now where people can't go to the store to see if they're open, the website's received a huge boost in traffic. So we're making sure that all of our members are obviously listed, but all of their events are advertised. So as they're hosting webinars and they're getting out there in other ways, we're offering the ability to post that on our calendar as well, so we can increase their visibility. We've created 2 new website pages. One is the Open Business Directory. So that has a list of all of our members that are currently open and what they're offering. So whether it's a specific promotion or hours that they want to advertise, a lot of businesses are doing free virtual consultations, things like that. So it's been extremely useful. And then we also have a resource page. So we're trying to keep up with that as best as possible. Sarah and Sherm and the Chamber, we've all been sending out information as soon as we get it. So hopefully between the 3 of us, every person in the surrounding area has been able to get the information that they need. So we try to keep our website as up to date as possible with all of these resources as well. I would say the biggest need right now is business referrals and marketing. Without organic foot traffic in stores, the businesses that have decided to stay open are really struggling to get, that visibility, to get those people to pay attention to the products and services that they're offering. So we've been working with businesses on an individual level and touching base with them, figuring out exactly what they're struggling with and trying to remedy that to the best of our abilities. So a lot of businesses are looking for additional marketing. We've been doing free e-blasts. We have over 2,000 local contacts. So many of you, I'm sure, are on that list and have been receiving those. Excuse me. We also are doing a lot of social media posting. So again, people are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn, they're looking for to connect with other businesses in those ways. And social media is being used more now than ever. So we're helping businesses stay relevant, keeping up with the technology being used and making sure that they're in the forefront of people's minds when they're scrolling for a particular need. We also have a lot of events that are coming up, and in a time when so many things are being postponed or completely canceled, we're really excited about our art trail this year. So in 2018, that attracted about 30,000 visitors to Simsbury, and that was during normal times. So it's not only a local attraction, it's regional. People travel from all over the place to see sculptures from this world-renowned artist. And so this year it's returning, and we did push it back a little bit. It was supposed to start a couple days ago, actually. It's been pushed back to June 5th, and it'll be running until September 29th. And this event we're extremely excited about, as is everyone that has heard about it, because it's still viable. It's one of the few things that people can still do right now. They can get out of their homes with their family and loved ones and, and go on the art trail throughout Simsbury. So we'll have 36, potentially 37. We've got one last minute person that is trying to hop on there, but we'll see if we can get it together with it being down to the wire now. But we'll have about 36 sculptures spread out throughout the town. So it's going to attract more people than ever to the area. And I'm encouraging not only our sculpture sponsors to make sure that they're marketing themselves, but I've really reached out to all of the membership and I've said, you know what, you're going to have extra people in town, a significant amount of extra people in town for this time frame. You need to leverage the opportunity. You don't have to be an art trail sponsor to benefit from this and to have the exposure that you're looking for. So we're utilizing hashtags, hashtag Simsbury Art Trail, things like that. And we're encouraging businesses to do check-in competitions on Facebook, things like that, really get engaged. In fact, I did want to speak to Mike probably to figure out what type of outdoor signage is going to be allowed right now. I've been telling people, sandwich boards, things like that, but I also don't want to give anyone false information on how to advertise their business. But we're hoping that there will be a little bit more leniency with that type of marketing since people do have limited foot traffic. And, we've really been encouraging people, get a lawn sign on your property, get a sandwich board with a QR code that links to your website, that links to a coupon that you're offering, so people can use their phone, take a picture, and take that promotion with them. So we've really been focusing on that piece of things. And then we have a golf tournament coming up September 1st. And I was unsure how receptive businesses would be to sponsorship and to thinking about an outdoor activity that would involve, a group of people. And it's been extremely well received. We've had people booking sponsorships left and right when it's just been introduced. So it really highlights the fact that people are excited to get back to a sense of normalcy, whatever that might look like in the future. They're excited to get their name out there, to connect with other people. And I think having that hopeful, optimistic perspective is going to be really important to the recovery of the local economy.
Great. That's a lot to be involved with at the moment. Any sense of when they'll be able to have general meetings? We used to have the government affairs meeting, once a month. Will those be reinstituted with the proper social distancing and stuff, as an example?
Yes, absolutely. So that's one that's on my radar to get going again. We also have a couple of other committees that have kind of taken a back seat as I've had to focus on some other things, with everything going on. But we will be reintroducing all of that. We've actually had mixed feedback about whether to have it in person or not. There seems to be a right down the middle preference for virtual versus in person. I personally prefer in-person meetings. I love the face-to-face contact. I love getting to know one another and building those relationships. But there are quite a few people that say, hey, virtual meetings, they're more convenient. You can do them from home. They have their materials on hand. You don't have to do printed agendas and things like that to bring to the meeting. So I think what we might end up doing is exactly as the feedback I've gotten is kind of split it half and half. So I think going forward, we'll probably have some meetings that are in person and people have the opportunity to join virtually, or some will be exclusively offered on a virtual platform. and we'll kind of flip flop back and forth and do it that way. But I do think virtual business is here to stay. There are many people that seem to prefer it. And I think this experience, as horrific as it has been, it's forced us to adjust to a new way of doing business. So I think utilizing it in the future will benefit everyone.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Any other questions for Morgan? Thank you very much for the update. It was very informative.
Great.
So Sherm, you're up. Business Resource Librarian report.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to report on the library. As you would expect, our digital offerings are seeing heavy use, and we are glad to make those available. Our programming that, everybody was accustomed to coming to the library for meetings, the virtual programming has been very well attended. I think we're going to have to look at probably, going forward, do we need to make that a regular option for our programming just because it's been so popular. As far as my customer base, businesses and employees, the biggest thing I've been dealing with in contacts with my customers is the frustrations with the PPP loans and filing for unemployment, especially with the self-employed, sole proprietorship businesses. A lot of my conversations really has been being sympathetic. From my banking background, I've kind of had to offer an education on guidance. When they see the national news and it's passed the House and it's passed the Senate and the president signed it into law, they're expecting to immediately be able to take advantage of it. And the conversations I've had is kind of education on guidance for my banking. Again, my banking background where, the banks are wanting to make the loans, but they have to have the guidance to be able to do it properly, especially with the PPP, with the forgiveness piece of that, where the guidance was lacking when that initially went live. Now we have some of the guidance. It's still probably not where it needs to be, but it's good that's out. And, we've done our best to share that information. And I'd really like to offer kudos to the Chamber and the Main Street group for, again, getting that information out in a very timely manner to our customers so they're aware of what's going on. A lot of the frustration right now tends to be dealing with the unemployment. Folks have been reaching out to me wanting to know if I have a quick access or a back door where they can get their questions answered or find out why the issues are with their claim, and if there's some way they can expedite that process. Even though Connecticut has had probably one of the best responses in the nation for our unemployment insurance, it's obviously people are dealing with it for the first time, are frustrated with the high demand that's going through that office and their inability to get immediate response to their questions and things like that. All I can do is urge folks to be patient. It's a system that's seen overwhelming use. I mean, this has made my days of 2008 2009 downturn look like nothing. I mean, this has just been incredible what's been going on here. So again, sympathize with them, encourage them to be diligent, apply, and wait for the guidance that comes available so we can be effective in doing things properly. So a lot of frustration there, but the PPP has definitely gotten better. I think in the second round, unemployment insurance continues to be an issue as far as responsiveness, but the system was not designed for this kind of demand. But again, we're in a state that thankfully is doing, I think, a better job than a lot of other states. Not really a whole lot to add on that. Again, with the library, we put out the announcement that we are going to be offering curbside service, which we've had people asking us about. So we'll be working on getting going on that. And I think that will make people very happy. They'll be able to have print materials, movies and things like that available here shortly.
Sure. This is a question both for you and Morgan, and if Sarah's still on. Do you have a sense of what percentage of the local businesses applied for federal aid, and what percent have actually received either the loans or the aid for the payroll protection programs, or what have you? Do we have a sense of how well we as a town are doing with all those programs?
All I would have to add to that is, the numbers that were released by the state on what they've seen passed on to them from the feds. Most of my contact by phone or email has just been frustrations with the process. So I don't have a feel for how well it's gone overall. Like I said, my contacts are usually from a negative standpoint, but I have to think that for the majority, people have been able to get through and get what they need.
Bob, I can chime in very quickly. This is Sarah. So the majority of the businesses in Simsbury that have applied for PPP have now received it, which is great. And I think, again, what it came down to was getting the information out, getting the application out, explaining the process, and then we have a fantastic network of banks. Again, unlike the EIDL, unlike the emergency disaster loan from the SBA, the PPP, you were required to go through a lender. With the EIDL, you could apply directly through the SBA. So the PPP, a lot of people, there was a lot of complaints, and there were a lot of other areas that didn't see as good results. But we have many businesses. I don't want to name them just out of confidentiality, but we have many, many businesses that applied for and received them.
Yeah, my input on that is I've received very few questions about the EIDL loan. The majority has all been PPP.
Okay.
Yep, that's been the experience I've had as well. It does seem that most businesses have been able to receive funding on some level. I am hearing business owners that are very nervous about having the loan turned to a grant by rehiring their employees, because their employees are not willing to come back because they're making more on unemployment. So I'm sure we've all heard that, and that's a real struggle that these people are dealing with. And employees are requesting a guarantee of a specific amount of income, but restaurants, for example, they have no way of doing that since everything is uncertain for the future. So it puts these business owners in a very precarious situation. So I definitely feel for them, and I'm trying to help in every way that we can. But obviously, what we can do is limited.
Morgan, the one thing that the PPP put out very recently, the SBA put out in the FAQs, is that it's like question 40 dealt with that, especially for the restaurants. But as long as the restaurant gets something signed saying that they did a good faith effort to hire the employee back, that will be enough to suffice for some of the PPP issues.
Yes, it doesn't have to be the same employee if they have that letter, but it still needs to be, I believe it's 75% rehire. So in terms of getting any employees to fill those slots, it's still going to be a struggle for the businesses.
Yeah, and this is Sherman. That's the same thing I've heard, is there seems to be the PPP and the unemployment benefit really seem to be working at cross purposes, especially for our restaurant businesses. And kind of the thing that I'm surprised hasn't kind of made to the press is, the fact with the unemployment, they're touting the benefit to workers, but the fact that they've, those benefits, the time period they last, kind of the other side of that is by offering an attractive unemployment benefit, they keep those employees out of the market. And I kind of think the under the sheets hope there is it keeps those businesses idle, to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. So it's both programs, I think, were designed with the best intentions, but they seem to be working at cross purposes, especially for our restaurants.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, thanks so much for everyone's updates. Much appreciated. Any other questions from the group? I know Jackie and Bill Rice are on the in attendance. I don't know if they have any questions or comments.
Nope, it's all been very informative.
Great, thanks. Bill, thanks for attending.
No, thanks, Bob. This is Jackie.
Okay, good. So the last thing is just a review of the minutes from, boy, it seems like a long time ago, February 26th. Seems like a lifetime ago. Any questions, updates? Motion to approve? Peter, you motion to approve?
To approve.
Okay. Any seconds?
Second.
Second, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thumbs up? Great. Approved. Maria, anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
We're going to have another meeting next month, or do we know yet?
Yeah, we'll have another meeting next month. If not in person, with proper social distancing, then we'll do the Zoom. I think Morgan's comment about the combination going forward, that makes a lot of sense, and so we'll see what we can do.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, I do think as we move forward in the recovery efforts, as we get more information, we'll sort of move from sort of more of an update format to maybe breaking off in subcommittees, or again, sort of needing help with folks working more hands-on on some tasks once we get a better handle on what that'll be.
Great. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for participating. And I know it was kind of short notice, but participation was great. We thank you, and look forward to meeting again next month.
All right. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
be
much.
safe.
Everybody.
Have a good one.
Thank you.